What's going on, everybody? C4 here. Welcome to more C4. Today, reaction time. The game just finished. Philadelphia 29, Jacksonville 21. I don't want to say... I feel like Philly, the game doesn't reflect how one side of the game was in the second half. Like, I think overall, Philly was never really in risk of losing this game, even though it was a one-score game. But also, Jacksonville beat the brakes off the Eagles in the first quarter. Like, Jags are a good team. Jags are a legit team. They're very much in that, you know, like Minnesota, they won ugly today, and obviously Kirk Cousins hasn't played particularly well, but, like, Minnesota's not a bad team, per se. Like, I feel like the Minnesota Vikings are going to be in the NFC wildcard playoff race for most of the season. Hell, they might even straight up make the wild card when all is said and done. But I feel like the same for Jacksonville. I don't know if Jacksonville is going to win 10 games this year, but I think Jacksonville is going to be competitive. I think Jacksonville is going to be right in the AFC wildcard race, most likely, till, you know, December in that range. It's a strong team. It's a solid team. And, you know, got to kind of throw out harsh reactions. You know, there were some bad things that happened, but the weather was ridiculous. It was like a goddamn hurricane out there. Super windy, super rainy. And very difficult to throw the football, and very difficult for Trevor Lawrence to hold on to the football. This was a game that the Philadelphia Eagles defense really took over. They made some massive, massive plays that I really do think were the difference makers. But Philly still remains the only undefeated team in the NFL, 4-0, getting another home victory. I think we got the Bears next week, which, you know, if it's similar conditions, an ugly game, who knows? Bears can play it kind of tough like they run the football, but optimistic about next week. But let's talk about this week, throw some grades around, and just the closing thoughts. So Jalen Hurts went 16 of 25, 204 yards, had an interception, got sacked 2 times. Interception absolutely was on Jalen Hurts, arguably his worst throw. He threw it into like double coverage to Zach Pascal, like forced, especially with the conditions where it's like it was raining really, really bad. Made a tweet. I was like, if that was Devontae Smith, given especially that ridiculous catch Devontae Smith made last week against the Commanders, that was A.J. Brown because he's your $100 million wide receiver, and that ends up being an interception, at least you have that. At least you have, like, terrible throw, Jalen. What are you doing? But I guess you kind of, you know, you have that trust that your guys are going to make a play. But going to Zach Pascal, who's firmly our wide receiver 4, behind A.J. Brown, behind Devontae Smith, behind Quez Watkins, very questionable, to say the least. Like, that's... You know, I don't want to disrespect Zach Pascal, but that's like last year, like, all right, gotta have it. Let's force a ridiculous throw to Jalen Reagor. You just don't do it. But, you know, he had some good plays on the ground. 16 carries, 38 yards, had the rushing touchdown. The touchdown was, you know, he took a shot. That was a very tough play by Jalen Hurts. Play that we kind of needed to get at a certain point. Had a bunch of, you know, QB sneaks. I think we had, what, three fourth down conversions on QB sneak to Jalen Hurts. So, I mean, it wasn't his prettiest game, but then you factor in the weather into, you know, does this halt his momentum, right? He's coming into this game as the NFC Offensive Player of the Month, and then you look at the stat line, and especially from the outside looking in, like, what's going on? That wasn't particularly great. Or if you had Jalen Hurts in fantasy, you're like, wait, it wasn't a great game. You know, weather is tough. It was a tough environment. It was not a throw-the-ball type environment. Like Trevor Lawrence, a little bit better, had 2 touchdowns, but how many of those touchdowns were, like, broken plays because of the weather, right? You had Agnew out there, super shifty player, very difficult to bring down. So, you know, I'm not going to be too critical on Jalen Hurts, but that interception was bad. That interception absolutely could have came back to bite this team in the ass, and he has to be a lot better in that standpoint. But I think, you know, I made a tweet saying that, especially after that first quarter, Philly was down 14-0 at Jacksonville. A box that you want your franchise quarterback to think about. And that's the conversation we're having right now. Is like, man, is Jalen Hurts actually going to be our franchise quarterback through 4 games? He's ticked a lot of things. He's been able to make throws that he wasn't making. I think a big part of that is the addition of A.J. Brown and the talent that we have at wide receiver. But Hurts is getting the ball to these guys, and he's made some great throws. He's shown the mobility that we know he has. We already know, like, the intangibles, the leadership, all that stuff Jalen Hurts has in spades. And another box is games that start out ugly. Like 14-0 against Jacksonville. You know, last year, 2 years ago, Jalen Hurts might not have, and I almost would bet against Jalen Hurts putting it all together and finding a way to win. And that's exactly what he did. Franchise quarterbacks in ugly games. Like, look, you think of the best quarterback. Josh Allen kind of looked like shit today. Lamar Jackson, who's been probably the MVP frontrunner, kind of looked like shit today. Not great conditions, but, you know, and Josh Allen found a way to win. That is what we need to see out of Jalen Hurts, is that, it looks fun when you get the RPOs, the offensive line's firing on all cylinders, you have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith making ridiculous circus catches. It's easy almost for a quarterback in that system when everything around him to look good, especially with the talent that Philadelphia has. But today, we lost Darius Slay first drive on the defensive side of the ball. We lost Jordan Mailata for 70-80% of that game, franchise left tackle. We lost Isaac Seumalo, very serviceable starting guard. Things were ugly, and Jalen Hurts found a way to persevere and get this one over the line and get a victory. So that is a check mark for me, and I'll give him a B-. I can't really recall a whole lot of times. He maybe had a pass to Kenny Gainwell that it was a little bit more accurate, might have been a touchdown. I think there was an off throw to Dallas Goedert at one point, but generally speaking, outside of the interception and factoring the weather, it was definitely not a bad game from Jalen Hurts. It just wasn't maybe a great game, maybe not to the standards of the first 3 weeks, but the weather was terrible. I'm not going to fault him too bad for that. Miles Sanders, 27 touches, wow. The running back committee thing kind of just is what it is, but I always kind of feel like committees are fine. Committees are the way of the NFL nowadays. But you always want that lead back in the committee. You don't need a clear RB1, but you need that one guy that is if he gets hot, you can keep feeding him, you can trust him. It's not a straight up Miles Sanders gets 10 carries, Gainwell gets 10 carries, Sermon gets whatever, Boston Scott's out today. But Miles Sanders got the load. Phrasing. Get your mind out of the gutters today. 27 carries, 134 yards, 5 yards per carry, 2 rushing touchdowns at a long of 35 yards. Also had 2 balls out the backfield for 22 receiving yards, 150 on the day. He was awesome. Miles Sanders is playing for a brand new contract. He's playing for more reps on this field, and he's absolutely earning them. He's been very good this season. Very happy with him. I think a big area, obviously, wasn't prolific as a receiver, but as a rookie, Miles Sanders looked like a complete back. He looked like a guy that had breakaway speed, good vision, patient behind the line of scrimmage, and he could catch the football. Then really every year that wasn't his rookie year, he's been god-awful catching the football, drops, and all that stuff. He seems to be confident in that regard, which is valuable for Philadelphia because between him and Kenny Gainwell, it's good having 2 options of guys that are very legitimate as far as receivers are concerned out of the backfield. But Miles Sanders was exceptional here today. I thought Kenny Gainwell was solid when he came in. Trey Sermon, 2 rushes, 19 yards, and he also drew a 15-yard face mask. Sure, maybe the 49ers trash is absolute gold for the Philadelphia Eagles running backs today in a game where you have to run the football. Jags have a great running defense, but with the conditions, it was kind of going to be between Jacksonville and Philadelphia, what team can run the ball better. And obviously, I think you're going to take Philadelphia's offensive line. I'm even going to take Philadelphia's offensive line because they had Jack Driscoll in at left tackle. You had Sua Opeta in at right guard. I'm still taking those guys over Jacksonville, and you can see it because Jags got talented running backs. ETN's solid, but James Robinson's might be the most underrated football running back in the NFL, and we shut that shit down. We absolutely shut that shit down. And given the conditions, the team that could run the ball better was going to win the game, and Philadelphia was able to run. So I'm giving A+ for all the running backs, headlined by Miles Sanders. Receivers, shitty conditions. The fact that anybody had decent games was great. 5 catches, 95 yards for A.J. Brown. They called back a touchdown that I actually thought it was kind of ticky-tack, to be honest with you. But A.J. Brown, awesome. Absolute, what a monster to have on your team. 5 catches, 72 yards for Dallas Goedert. Easily a top 5 tight end in today's NFL. I think that literally someone was saying Tony Gonzalez, who's, I personally, Gronk is the most greatest, best awesomeness tight end that I've ever seen. But a lot of people regard Tony Gonzalez in that role. Tony Gonzalez said Dallas Goedert is the best tight end in football today. I'm not saying that. I'm not going to say that he's better than, Travis Kelce, but I think there's a legitimate claim that if you're just viewing this season in its scope, that Goddard could be maybe the 2nd, 3rd. He's closer to the top 3 than he is top 5, I would say, as of right now, as of 4 weeks of the season. But he's been awesome. He had a bad drop though. He might have had an extra touchdown on the board, but again, I'm not going to be too harsh really about anybody's play given the conditions. I'm happy that we're able to grind out a victory, but the receivers were fine. I'll give them B+. All things considered, B+ was pretty good. And you could just see Christian Kirk struggle. He had one kind of broken play late in the game. Jags weren't really moving the football. It's both teams had to deal with the conditions. And Philly, they get 95 yards. A.J. Brown being able to get Dallas Goedert involved, they did a better job than the Jacksonville Jaguars did. The biggest tale, the special teams were fine. Elliott got destroyed on a kick and they got an extra, down, or that extra little 4 downs, and they ended up having to kick a field goal anyways. Again, given the conditions, I thought they were solid, they were serviceable, but the defense today, A+++ for the Philadelphia Eagles. TJ Edwards, 10 tackles, had a sack. We had 2 sacks, a TFL, 2 fumbles for Haason Reddick. He's getting the game ball. Haason Reddick, ridiculous. I made a tweet after week 2 being like, Haason Reddick got to make some plays. We brought him in to get after the quarterback. We brought him in to get pressure, to get sacks, and it was kind of quiet, a little bit of a slow start. Last 2 weeks, he was ridiculous, and for my money, he was the best player on the football field here today. He absolutely shut shit down. It was awesome. I thought Kaiser White had a decent game. Jordan Davis ate a bunch of run plays up right away. Felt like almost anytime James Robinson, I watched this as a James Robinson fantasy owner, anytime James Robinson got a carry, it was Jordan Davis meeting him at the line of scrimmage. Fletch was decent. Everyone was great. And James Bradbury, give this man a contract extension. How did the Giants let him go? The fact that there always was a little bit of buyer beware with James Bradbury. There's clearly a reason why the Giants don't want him. Maybe he's a little bit washed. He's been amazing. He's been, obviously Slay's at a little bit different of a level, especially after the Justin Jefferson game. Well, if you give me throw a Madden rating right now, I'd give Slay a 95 and Bradbury's a 90. James Bradbury was massive, got that interception that definitely took points off the board for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's been amazing. Only player that I'm going to call out, and I say this because he's one of my favorite players on the Eagles. And I said the same to Haason Reddick. After about 2 weeks, I was like, man, is Haason Reddick going to make a play? He's very hyped up, clearly came in to provide a spark to the pass rush and didn't. In the last 2 games, he did. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, he gets a little bit more leeway because he joined up late. It was a late trade. He's probably still learning the playbook, for God's sakes, learning his teammates, getting tendencies, getting that chemistry down packed. But I did not think he had a particularly good game. Maybe if you look at the All-22, maybe he's doing good coverage reps that I'm not seeing. But it does seem like a lot of times, anytime Jacksonville had a kind of big play, someone got behind the defense, it was kind of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was either hands up, what the fuck's going on, or he missed a tackle or something like that. So he's the next guy. Personally, I'm just some fucking idiot on YouTube. Call it Haason Reddick, and then the last 2 games, he's been great. Doing the same for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. It's about time, especially just for him. As someone that, he was one of my favorite players on the Florida Gators. And as much as I dislike the Saints, he was one of my favorite players on the Saints. And now he's here in Philly, and I'm giving him a benefit of doubt because brand new, kind of came in late. But I want to see him not only play good for the Eagles and to lock shit down, but he's playing for a contract. This guy wants to get paid. He came to Philly so he can play safety and go on and get the bag. He's not really playing like that right now. If it's not even here in Philly, I want him to get a massive contract this offseason. And I would love to do it because he earned it and played very good for the Philadelphia Eagles. But so far, I know he doesn't have a particularly good PFF grade as well. If the nerds that sit down and watch it say he's not doing pretty good. And the eye test seems to be leading to he's struggling a little bit. Let's see it, man. You got a great opportunity next week against the Chicago Bears. Quarterback that can turn the ball over. I'm sure they'll have Chauncey Gardner-Johnson on some forms of spies to help out with Kaiser White and TJ Edwards. Maybe there's a big opportunity next week for him to make plays. But generally, this defense, A+, outstanding. There could be a legitimate claim to be had that Philadelphia has the best defense in the NFL right now, which, even as optimistic as I would have been coming into the season, I don't think I would be saying. I was like, we might have a top 10, if Gannon can put it all together and be more consistent. But you know what? The way that they're playing right now, maybe some of these teams that brought Jonathan Gannon in for a head coaching interview, maybe they were onto something. Maybe there was something they knew that we didn't here as Eagles fans. But very, very happy with this performance. Very, very happy to be the only undefeated team in the NFL, and, got the Bears next week. 5-0 sounds, I'm not going to say probable. Anything can happen. I'm still waiting for that. It's almost at a point right now, you're waiting for that the other ball to drop, or whatever that saying is, right, with Philly. It's all right, is it going to be an ugly bullshit loss to the Bears, something like that? He's that's what's going to end this momentum? Or are we going to just keep being a really good team and beat teams that we should be beating? We will find out next week, but for this game, very happy to, given the conditions, to be able to, leave Lincoln Financial Field with a victory. Let me know what you guys think about this game in the comment section below. Who was your game MVP? Who's getting the game ball? For me, I'm giving it to Haason Reddick. Would love to hear what you guys think in the comment section below. As always, the first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button, smash the like button if you enjoyed, and I'll catch you back here in the next one. Thanks for watching. Peace out.